We do have two people signed up to speak against the bill. Dora E. Chandler, please come forward and introduce yourself and who you represent.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dora Lee Chandler. I am the Director of Alcoholic Beverage Control, and I'm here today to speak against this bill and to explain to you how ABC became involved in this matter. As we all know, COVID-19 hit the state in March of 2020. An emergency declaration was made, and directives began to be imposed by the Arkansas Department of Health with the intent to protect the safety of employees and patrons and others with potential exposure. And the focus became on the different commercial businesses. The alcoholic beverage control permit locations became a focus because the environment is a little bit different for those commercial environments.
Yeah, the virus knows
Entities, because of the on-premise and the private club permits that we are providing them. They're in close proximity. The patrons are in close proximity. They have to have removed their masks for eating and drinking, and generally speaking louder to be heard over music and other noise within that facility. From March to July 1, my office would receive complaints of individuals not complying or entities not complying with those directives that were set out in the guidelines of the Department of Health. At that point in time, we forwarded those to the Director of Enforcement, of Alcoholic Beverage Control Enforcement, and they would send agents to educate and investigate those complaints. As the numbers rose, there was a point in time when the Director of Enforcement began to have systematic COVID-19 checks going forward from July 1. Since July 1st and the systematic checks were completed by enforcement, they completed over 5,800 compliance checks and forwarded to my office 257 violations. They forwarded less than 5% of their checks. 95% of your constituents and the governor's constituents never came to my office. Of the 257 reports forwarded, 33 written warnings were issued by my office. There were 224 potential monetary penalties. Of those, 68 fines have been paid, 69 are still pending review, 72 offers have been issued, and 15 were set for hearings. It's been stated that we arbitrarily and unfairly applied the fines that you seek to refund at this point. We reviewed had multiple criteria for those reports that we reviewed. There was not one overriding criteria that we looked at. We looked at and compared the facts that the agents put in their reports to the Department of Health guidances. We looked at the number of times there was a violation for that entity, and prior issuance of a warning and what guidance and instructions we had provided or enforcement had provided to assist in them following the guidances. Why refund or why not refund at this point? I'm asking you all to consider not refunding the fines because of the message that it sends. Every action taken centered around the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Arkansas as related to the emergency. A vast majority of not just your constituents, but the governor's constituents complied with the guidance and criteria from the Department of Health. As I stated, less than 5% were referred to administrative review for adjudication. It was stated on the Senate floor that we were punishing permittees for action of the patrons, but I'm here to testify that the fines issued resulted from behavior within the control of the permittees. Less than 5 permitted locations that were reported to ABC administration for violations were the result of a report that a patron had misbehavior or non-compliance in their behavior. But that behavior was invited by the permittee through either signs indicating they do not require face masks, or checking people's IDs as they entered the club and telling them not to worry about needing a mask, or to opening up the dance floors to dancing. Refunding ignores the rule of law, and it denigrates not only the agents and local law enforcement officers that sent reports to us, but also those that complied, the 95% that sacrificed income in an effort to comply with the criteria. Refunding rewards the non-compliant behavior and further punishes those that did comply. These were valid, lawful directives that were undertaken in good faith to protect the health and welfare of the citizens of Arkansas, and in an attempt to keep from a complete and continuous shutdown of the state. Any establishment that disagreed with the offer of settlement that we sent out had a redress. There was no unfair burden placed upon them. They could request a director's hearing. There was no attorney necessary to contest the offer and ask for a hearing. We did them and are doing them by go-to, so they don't have to travel to Little Rock, as we did prior to COVID, so they don't have to appear in person. 15 permittees have been set for a hearing. Less than 10% requested a hearing. And on more than one occasion, the offer has been reduced to either a warning or the charges have been dismissed, the violation has been dismissed based upon the testimony of that permittee. Everyone has an opinion about the efficacy of the guidance and criteria, just as people do about whether they should be prohibited from smoking in public or being required to wear a seatbelt. And I understand that the guidances came from the executive branch, not the legislative branch, like my examples, but they did come from an authoritative figure that was allowed at the time, and this is about the larger picture. If you all elect to immunize the vines, you're setting a precedent that if you don't like the rules, contrary to the hard work put into creating them, then they do not have to be followed. For many years in private practice before turning to state government, I can tell you that most individuals, when they make the decision to violate a rule, they don't set debate.
Excuse me, Representative Wardlaw, do you have a motion?
I do. Can we call a question? Motion to call a question.
Motion to call a question. The motion is non-debatable. So all in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.